I'm the founder of Turn Up Art and the co-founder of Team G. So, how do I start a business? You'll tell me after you do it. It's really hard to say what to do, and I can only talk from my experiences. Everything is different. I co-founded an LLC and founded a nonprofit. So I could talk from that, and I have a lot of experience that covers a lot of ground, but everything's different. Every business is different. Every venture is different. So don't just start a business. Find a problem and create a solution. It's way more powerful when you're fixing a problem, because then people need your service. You know, if you're just starting a business just to make money, it's not always going to work. You know, you need to fill a need. So you got to start from the bottom. I started young, like 10 years old, 5th grade. My dad had a vending machine company where we always had candy in the house. So I always used to go to school to lunch with like all these candies and stuff. And my classmates started to catch on. This is before they sold like junk food. And they started offering me their lunch money for it. So I was like, all right. So I started selling Airheads, which were like trending at the time, for $1, bags of chips for $1, soda for $1. And it just started to like grow and grow and grow to the point where I was like making $200 a week in 5th grade. And the principal got wind of this and actually called me over the loudspeaker into the office to talk to me that I was putting the lunch ladies out of business, and I can't be selling, you know, this stuff in the school. So that was my first little venture, and that was in 1999. I was 11 years old. Then I had a lawn mowing business around my neighborhood. I used to do all the leaf cleanups and, you know, mow the lawns, take care of the grounds. Then in 2005, I started my first clothing company. So it was like BMX based. I rode BMX, like skateboarding. So it was kind of like a BMX team thing where I made some shirts. I used to sell them at like hardcore screamo shows on Long Island. It worked, you know, but it was too hard. I didn't drive then, so I had to have my parents drive me to the silk screener and, you know, order shirts online. It was just like a mess. So that ended after like a year. And then I started my second clothing company right before coming to Pratt. With my best friend, and it was called Carmelio, and we sold probably about $6,000 or $7,000 worth of apparel in Long Island. We had some parties. We ran it for like 2 years, but coming to Pratt like really consumed me. You know, it's such a tough program that I really just didn't have the time to put into it anymore. So it kind of just fizzled out. But I did learn a lot, and especially there, I learned, don't give people too many choices because they can't make a decision. So I made we had this like a couple designs, but this one in particular, we had like 7 different color variations. And like they all looked good in their own way, but when it came time to a point of sale, people were like overwhelmed by it and they couldn't make a decision because not one of them like really stood out to them. So it's kind of like, never mind then, you know. And then in 2013, I started Turn Up Art, which was originally called Pratt City. We'll get to that later. And then in 2014, I co-founded Team G with Yulia Samina, who's sitting over there next to the radiator. So what is Turn Up Art? We upcycle art supplies. So upcycling is the process of taking something that's waste in one field, bringing it to another where it's back at the top. So what we do is we basically take the art supplies that are trashed at the end of the year from Pratt, from artists, other schools, high schools, middle schools, and we take that stuff and we donate it to children's organizations. And then we have a pop-up shop on campus in this building in the basement where we sell things to students for a fraction of the cost. So they're able to buy things very, very cheap compared to what it is in Dick Blick and save a lot of money. So Turn Up Art was founded for Pratt students, by Pratt students, so we really know what they need. So the old process for the art supply cycle would be students buy it in the beginning of the year, especially freshmen. They spend tons of money. So they buy the art supplies in the beginning of the year, they use it throughout the school year, and then they trash it at the end of the year. Now, the reason for that is there's so many international students at Pratt, SVA, Parsons. Even if you're from America, you know, Montana's a long way. You know, so if you need to ship your stuff or store it, it's just not economical. The cost is higher in storing and transportation than it is to just throw it out and buy it again in the beginning of the year. So I stored this when I was leaving Pratt. And this cycle costs Pratt students $12 million a year. And that's just at Pratt. These are also accurate for Parsons and SVA. There's about 4,000 students at each school, including grads. Schools quote that you're going to spend $2,500 a year on art supplies, which is actually very low. You might spend more like $3,000 to $5,000. But even with $2,500 a year, 4,000 students is $12 million. So this is a big market. You know, art supplies they seem cheap, some seem expensive at the initial purchase, but when it adds up, it's actually a really, really great cost. So our process is a little different. Students buy supplies at the end of the year. We can't get used supplies without somebody buying it new. And we can't have everything necessarily. So students will still have to purchase some things new they might want to. Some people don't like used things. There's a lot of different situations. They're still going to use the supplies at the end of the year, throughout the year. But at the end of the year, they donate the supplies. So they're able to donate to us, which we're a 501c3, so we can give tax deductions, but students aren't really interested in that. So we've done discounts for the next year when they return. Now we fill that gap by upcycling it. So over the summer is like our time. So at the end of the year, we come in, we sweep out the studios, and we hold everything, we organize it, we inventory it, we categorize it, and we price it and everything so that when they get back, it's ready for them at a real ease of access. So this process is $6 million in a perfect world. So if we were able to dominate the market, if everybody could get used things, you know, we could cut this in at least half, if not even less. That's a big difference, you know, just 50% off just to buy used things. As a collective, each school could save $6 million. So this is a video made by Julius Samina. This is our commercial. It's running across campus, and this kind of explains to the students what we're doing. So what's our secret? Late, close, and cheap. Three things you never thought would sound good together are actually a really powerful combination. So we were all Pratt students, everybody that works for Turn Up Art, you know, so we understand the Pratt grind and the art school grind, where you need things to be open late, it's got to be close, and it's got to be cheap. So we're open till midnight every day, Sunday to Friday, which is intense. But we're open from noon to midnight, so students are able, you know, we save them on some supplies. You know, one kid ran out of spray adhesive, Super 77 at like 10:30 at night. Where are you gonna get it? You know, nowhere. You have to come to us. You know, we have it and it's super cheap. They sell those cans for like anywhere from 12 to 20 bucks, and we sell them for like $5, $4. So cheap. Everything, if we don't know the price of it, we scan it with the Amazon app, and we do half of Amazon's price. So we're probably the only ones beating Amazon. On campus, I mean, you can't complain. Like, we're right in. And I was working in the studios by myself, and it was just like a ghost town. It was Chinese takeout, Red Bulls. It looked like a bomb went off, and everybody just ran out of the place. But their studios were like still intact. So I was asking around. I asked the faculty and the staff and the maintenance guys, what's going on? They're like, it's like this every year, man. You know, get used to it. So I was like, how could this be? So I started taking some like really nice items like right before they were going to trash it all. And the next thing you know, I was packing my car out for 2 weeks, like till the pencils were falling out, driving everything out to my parents' house in Long Island, putting it all in my mom's sunroom. She was freaking out about it. But I was like, no, I'm going to donate it. I'm going to donate it all. You know, I know places that need it. And she was like, I don't know about this. Little did she know that stuff would be there for 2 years in that summer. But yeah, it just kind of found me. Like I tell everybody, like the supplies found me. I was there. I saw this. I started to grab things that I never could have afforded, like Illuminicolors, scales, the metal scales, all that stuff. And I was just like, wow, how could this all go to waste? So then the collection started. I collected throughout those 2 weeks, and like I said, brought everything out to my parents' house. And then Pratt City was born. So I have a lot of domains I buy that I don't use, and my mom was really putting the heat on me about what to do. Like, this is just going into summer, and it kind of just clicked, like Pratt City. Pratt City donates art supplies. We upcycle art supplies and donate it to community organizations. I figured it would be good for Pratt, it'd be good for the students, it'd be good for the environment. It's good for the community around here. So I started to develop that idea, but then I entered Project Breaker, which is like a young entrepreneurs think tank, where a TED senior fellow runs it, and it was like a 2-week rapid like prototyping a startup. So you start with ideation, you synthesize, and then at the end you pitch, and you pitch at AWL Ventures. So you're brought together with like 24 people from across the nation, come to New York, and everybody just has 2 weeks to work together and come up with a startup. So that kind of really got me into the startup mode, and what it takes, what a pitch deck is, you know, how to talk to investors, how to present. I learned a lot there, and I met a lot of awesome people. So that really got me fired up to go around to pitch everything to Pratt. So I had this idea, and I was like, the president needs to hear my idea. So I went to Career Services and talked to Laura Keegan, and I was like, I got this idea. I got to talk to the president. She's like, you can't do that. You got to write a letter. I'm like, what? I can't do that. So she pointed me in the direction of Emma Legg and then Dr. Ayers, and I met with them. I pitched. I developed this pitch deck, and I was pitching, and then I met Deb Johnson. But at the same time, I just started a full-time job. So I took on a job. I graduated. I needed money, and I took on a full-time job at this stone company where we did drafting and 3D modeling and rendering. So it was getting really hard to juggle, and that's when, after meeting with Deb Johnson a couple times, she asked me to be in the incubator to further develop this idea. So now I was really like, whoa, what am I going to do? I got a full-time job, and now I have the first startup in the incubator that's going to be on campus. This was before that space was built. That's a picture of it in construction. So no sleep team. I worked day and night. I slept 4 hours a night probably for 2 years, working full-time from 8 to 5, traveling home, and then working on what was still called Pratt City at that point every night. Trying to organize the sunroom where all the art supplies were, categorizing things, figuring out what they are. What am I going to do? I didn't know a lot about art supplies then. So that's when I figured, all right, so let's start an e-commerce website. So I built an online store with Shopify, and I put about 500 hours into it over the entire winter. And I was just like every night in that sunroom in like 10-degree weather with a winter coat, counting pencils, trying to figure out what things are, photographing them, making these products, developing this online store, which worked. But then I met Dr. Schutte at the BFDA opening party. That's what that photo is. And I was like, oh, you got to hear about my idea. I'm in the incubator now. It's called Pratt City. And he was like, can you use that name? And I was like, I don't know. Nobody said anything. So he's like, you should talk to Todd. I'm like, oh, boy. So that's when I met with the head of institutional advancement. They called me in for a meeting 2 days before my birthday in December, like 2 months after I saw Dr. Schutte. And they talked to the lawyers, and not everybody was too happy about the name and the risk that it took with Pratt. You know, I could easily be mistaken for Pratt. The name has Pratt in it. I went to Pratt. I'm at Pratt. You know, they were thinking that it's going to kind of be misleading. So this is like a month before I'm about to launch the online store, and I had to agree. I really had no choice, but it's for the better. So I had no name, no branding, no domains. Everything was just like, everything came crashing down. So then in January, Turn Up Art was born. And we launched the store January 15th. And it was cool. It was cool. We got written up in a couple blogs and stuff, but it was selling nationally across America from East Coast to West Coast. We were hitting a little bit of everybody, students in California, Florida, Virginia, Maine, but it just didn't sell enough. It was too hard to get the word out about it. Pratt students were not interested in buying things online. It's used stuff, so you know, there's kind of this like need to see how used it is, you know? It's just a tricky situation. And then Pratt students, they need it now. You know, they probably needed it yesterday when they're at the art store. So they're not going to take the time to go online and order and then like wait for me to drive it out here or something. So it ran until a couple months ago where we actually finally took it down because it's just not worth it. But then last week, last year I sponsored Green Week. That was like the first competition I sponsored. It got some exposure. We did a couple competitions where we gave out credit for the online store, which was good, and it got a couple students a little more involved. And then in April, we hired our intern, Ryan, right there with the red glasses. And she's still with us to this day. She works really hard. She's really helpful. She helped me clean out the studios the second year, which was last year. She counts paintbrushes every day and labels them, and yeah, she does a little bit of everything. We're a small team around here, but then so then 2014, this was like 1 year later after I originally found these supplies. Now I had help from Yulia and from Ryan to help me clean out the studio. So that made things better, but it was still the same process. I was still driving everything out to my parents' house in Long Island. And it was just like overflowing, right, Ryan? The place was crazy. So then we were doing so much design work, and we went to school for design, and we love design. And Turn Up Art requires so much design. I mean, to me, the ultimate design challenge is to design a functional business. There's just so many aspects of it. So we figured, why not start a design firm on the side? As if one project wasn't enough, we created two. So then we quit. We were working full-time this whole time and somehow pulling it off, going to meetings on my lunch break from Long Island to Brooklyn and like trying to come back like nobody knew what was going on. Every night just coming out here and like trying to get supplies and stuff. It was insane. But we told them we were going to quit. They knew about my plans from the beginning. They didn't believe us, but we quit. And that about to donate supplies. We've stocked up enough supplies. So we donated in November to Project Art and Sweetbriar Nature Center and a couple other organizations. We donated over 5,000 supplies to them, which was really awesome, and it really helped them a lot. These are organizations that occupy libraries in the area that teach kids who have never been exposed to art, like their first art programs. So it's good because they don't need like crazy high quality stuff. They just need academic level. So we had a lot of stuff that catered to them, and the Pratt students need like high quality professional stuff. So there's like that split between the two. But yeah, before the pop-up shop, like December, nothing was working. We were searching for funding. We were meeting with the city councils. We met with Eric Adams, the borough president of Brooklyn. We met with Traeger, Coney Island District. We tried to get in contact with Laura Cumbo. We were just out to find money because nothing happens without money, even good things. You know, bad things happen with money and so do good things, you know. So it was a real struggle. We met with David Marquis of Marquis Studios. They were trying to help us. But in December, throughout the holidays, we were really down and out. We didn't know what to do. The online store was not selling anything. We had tons of art supplies, all at my parents' house still for like 2 years now. And we just didn't know what to do. So out of desperation, I brought everything here. I spent like $500 in clear hefty bins from Target. I brought everything here in one day, 2 trips, to the office there, and just opened a pop-up shop on the first day of the second semester. We just made flyers. We just tried to get the word out, and it actually really popped off. Students loved it. They were coming in. They were finding these like unique items you can't get in America. All these odds and ends. It's kind of like a yard sale, you know. It's like, or like that show American Pickers, where they go around and they find things in the barns. It's like that, just art supplies, you know. So it's like this treasure hunt, and like everybody loved it. And we actually brought in probably about $6,000 in a week, which was big for us. I mean, it doesn't compare to our cost in the past like 2 years and all the money into it and all the time, but it showed that like this is something that could work when everybody thought it wouldn't. I tried to make deals with Apple Art over there for him to buy all my used art supplies, and he could sell them. He's like, no, kids don't want used art supplies. You know, everybody doubted us. My ex-boss was like, oh, are you selling pencils? You know, good luck, you know. So my parents were like, what are you doing? You know, like, we sent you to Pratt and now this, like, what's going on? But it actually really worked. And we have customers every single day to this day. So in February, we registered as a 501c3 nonprofit, which was a tough process that we got through actually really easily by paying another company to do it for us. So that's a word to the wise. You know, we wanted to get funding from a council member. He told us, we can't talk unless you're a 501c3. I told him, okay, I'll be back in 3 weeks. I was back in 3 weeks as a 501c3. They were like, how'd you do that? But you could do it. And if anybody wants to know the company, I'm willing to share it. And it's all about making deals. So I was paying a fair amount of money to get the 501c3 done. And I said, what if I do an LLC too? And they're like, oh, do that for $75. So that's like, we kind of worked the deal out. So we got both registered at the same exact time. And now here we are in March, and we're looking for expansion. So we're in talks with the student government at Pratt about student union and getting a retail spot there. We're trying to hold down our spot that we have right now for the next year. It's a constant battle, you know. Every day is a new challenge or a lot of challenges. But now we've got it down to this system where it's almost franchisable. So we want to take this idea and the system and incorporate it into Parsons and SVA, Cooper Union, FIT, you know, pretty much any art school that's willing to take it on. But it's going to be tough. So what have I learned during this process that I wish I knew before starting it? 20% of your business is what you do, and 80% is how you make it happen. So we do good things, right? We give away art supplies, we save students tons of money, but when it comes down to it, it's like once you figure out like what you do and what your business does, that's like the least of your problems. It's how you continue to make it happen. You know, how you generate revenue, how you generate customers, how you generate support, how you pay all your bills, how you up your marketing and your branding and your advertising. And another one is you'll never know the right decision until after the fact. So you watch a lot of startup guys talk about like, oh, they had this like groundbreaking idea and like they decided to do this and like all of a sudden it changed their life, you know, but like before that, they had no idea. They were like, I don't know, let's just try this, you know? And then all of a sudden when it works, it's like, ah, that was the right idea, right? So just be aware that you're gonna have to take a lot of risks. You're not gonna know the outcome, but that's the fun. So low tech is the new high tech. So everybody's trying to be so high tech with all these the apps. Everybody's chasing the app market, which is like the gold rush. But at the end of the day, like we're all still humans. We all breathe and we eat, you know, and we sleep, and that's not changing anytime soon, probably. You know, and being low tech is cost effective. You know, Turn Up Art doesn't need to be this. You know, we tried it. We've tried to go high tech. You know, we're like, oh, online store, it's gonna be so cool. We're gonna be, you know, it's a huge marketplace. But like, no, it was too complicated. Just clear hefty bins in like a yard sale style with some stickers on it that Ryan puts everywhere. That's what people like. It's simple. You know, simplicity is best. So you have to make money. Nothing happens without it. That is like the #1 thing right now. Like it's just about making money, you know, and nonprofits need to make money. They create earnings, you know, you make profit, you just don't profit share. So there's no owner. So I'm not the owner of Turn Up Art. There's a board. I'm the president, Yulia's the treasurer, and Ryan's the secretary. So like in the LLC, at the end of the year, you know, if you have X amount of dollars, you can say, okay, this is our profit as the company, and the two owners are going to split it 50-50, right? That's a profit share. That's what you can't do in a 501c3. But you can create earnings. You could sell things for more than you're getting them, like you need to in order to grow and do better things. You know, if you want to make something, you know, grow and get bigger and bigger and improve your services, you need to generate capital to do that. So it's just about putting money back into the business in the right areas, you know, which is always the case in the LLCs too. You don't want to take all the money out of it. If it sounds like a bad idea, it's probably a great idea. So that I actually heard from Stanford University. The Y Combinator runs like these videos online of how to start a startup. They're really good. And Sam over there touched on this, where if it sounds like a bad idea, it's probably great because nobody else is going to try and do it. You know, there's going to be no competition. And that's what works for us at Turn Up Art is there's no competition. You know, and even if there is now, they're going to have a hard time catching up to us. You know, it's been long enough. There's RISD. RISD has Second Life program, which I don't know how well it's doing. They haven't seemed to really updated their site in a long time. And then I know Parsons had a program for reusable materials too, but their site hasn't been updated since 2011, so I don't know how active that is. And there's a program in like New Jersey and stuff trying to do this, but we're doing it the best, I'm convinced. But the point about the bad idea being a great idea is that if it sounds really bad, it's probably really unique, you know? And that's what you want. You want something that doesn't exist. So do first, ask questions later. That's a big one. I just walk into people's offices and I was like here for something. And they're like, oh, okay. And I walked around and started handing out cards. Oh, Turn Up Art. I got an online store. Turn Up Art. Turn Up Art. Like, you know, and they're like, what? I tried Cooper Union too, but they weren't having it. SBA too. Their security was tight. But intuition is everything. So if you feel it, you should probably do it. I felt that those art supplies were going to sell, and a lot of other people didn't. But from the day before, where I brought everything there, to the next day, and we sold $1,200 worth of stuff in the first day, was like mind-blowing. Like, it proved everybody wrong who doubted this from the beginning, just in that one day. And that felt really, really, really good. But the higher the highs, the lower the lows. So success is really sweet, but there's more failure